Too often people just have limited beliefs that it's harder than it is. And it's not that hard. The grass really is greener.
It is.
Literally, like reverse it. Be different than everyone else. Don't ask for the check up front. And all it took was one yes. And the one yes wrote him a check for $500,000. And most of the time it's not about the money, it's just the access.
Proximity.
What if you give it out to every single person for free? I'm married. It ain't easy to be married these days, right? Look at the statistics with everything going on in this world. Newsflash, you gotta do everything. You gotta work 24 hours a day.
All the hats.
Fix stuff when things break and wear a lot of hats.
Welcome to another episode of the Transform Podcast. If we're looking for a place where you could find information on how to transform your health, wealth, and relationships, you've come to the right place. Please subscribe. I'm extremely excited today. I'm here with Jason Hill, founder of the Owwll app. He will tell me more about it. So Jason, thank you so much for having me here today in your place. I really, really appreciate it. Why don't you tell me more about you, my man?
Yeah, came all the way to Boca Raton, Florida, Owwll HQ, right here. We've never done a podcast on the famous Owwll autograph wall. So what we're seeing back here is 60 people who have come to the Owwll podcast studio and put their famous quote on the wall, autographed it, and put their date. And if we read a couple of them, we'll say, this one says, stay balanced. You know, this one says, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. Phenomenal, powerful humans have come in here and shared their journey with us, and forever they will be up on this wall. So I'm excited to do the first podcast interview, you know, with this wall on the background, of course.
Thank you for having me here, man.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell me about Jason? Who's Jason?
Okay.
And the story.
Okay, it's going to be a 4-hour podcast, everyone, because we're going to go all the way back to my childhood. No, we can't do that, right? Because I could talk for hours, of course, about who I am and what we're doing with Owwll, the impact that we're going to have on this earth and impacting millions of lives in the future. But the short story is I was raised in New York City. Not New York City, sorry. I was raised in New York and eventually moved to New York City and started my entrepreneurial journey there. My father was an entrepreneur. He had a store in New York City called Captain Hook's. I was behind, different areas of his store selling merchandise all the time. And I just learned how to communicate with people. And then I joined the financial service industry and really just got going, building one client at a time, just being a good person, sharing knowledge, sharing how I could bring value to their lives. And then I moved to South Florida in 2017 with my family, with 2 kids. I wanted to create a better lifestyle for us. I love the warm weather. I didn't love wearing suits and ties, and I was just sick of that atmosphere. And I got down here and I started a podcast called The Shrimp Tank. I partnered with the FEU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. I said I wanted to be different. I wanted to meet people through podcasting. I love sharing their journeys on our show and really learning about them and creating a relationship. I was never about, trying to go viral and just, stop working and not go to work. And I just think like that lifestyle that you see on social media, is not what I wanted. I wanted to really build genuine relationships one-on-one through podcasting, and it's really turned my life around. It turned me into a better person, just learning from them, a better husband, and a better entrepreneur. We now built the Owwll app. Owwll is a one-on-one audio app that connects people instantly through phone calls, and it's private and secure, and that would not have happened if it wasn't for podcasting. Right, I learned from all these entrepreneurs how to execute better and go after your dream and your passions. And now I wake up every day knowing that, even though I struggle at times, that there's a bigger mission, to make bigger impact. And now we even have the Owwll podcast where we interview people right here at Owwll HQ. So it's been a fun journey, man, and we're just getting started. That's the truth. That's
incredible, man. That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
But you gave me a lot.
Yeah.
So let me bring you back to what led you to leave New York outside of the weather. You said the weather, but what triggered that move to Florida?
Yeah, so I just always visit grandma when I was a little kid. Most people have a grandma in South Florida, right? It was the old school when you retire in New York, you move to the 6th borough, and that 6th borough is South Florida, right? So my grandma lived in Century Village in Deerfield Beach, Florida. And I always, went to that boardwalk over there with like Oceans 234 and JB's. And I watched everyone always playing volleyball. I started playing volleyball. And I just always fell in love with that ocean breeze and the sand. And I always, just struggled in New York with the winters, man. They were so brutal. And I always said my dream one day is, to get down to South Florida. And I just did it. Most people looked at me and said, Jason, what are you doing? You're in the financial service business. All the money is up in New York. There's no money down in South Florida. You're going to struggle down there. The lifestyle's different once you get down there. The people are different. And I said, something? I go, that's a myth.
Yeah,
I go, that's something that was said 30 years ago. And people just love saying it. But I'm like, they didn't really understand like what was happening in South Florida at the time, in 2017. Obviously pre-COVID days, before the big rush of everyone coming down here. And I just said, I could always move back if I'm wrong.
Of course.
Right? I understand like the grass is not always greener, but I said, I'll move down here and I'll find out for myself. I'm not going to listen to all these myths and people who have never visited the area, or they went to Miami once on spring break and they think that's South Florida, right? I'm like, no, there's different neighborhoods. I live in Parkland, Florida, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the grass really is greener.
It is.
Literally, like they water it very well. And I was like, look at all this green grass.
Yeah.
I love the setting with like the pools, the community feel where you could ride bikes in the street and ring doorbells. And I got down there and that's what me and the kids did.
Yeah,
we met our neighbors, we rang doorbells, and we got to meet other people in the community. So that's why I shifted. I just said there's got to be more to life than just hustling in New York City.
And piling snow.
And just like always like coming home and just watching football day on Sunday because like there's nothing else to do.
Right.
You're kind of, sitting in these apartments that are quite small. And I wanted a yard. I wanted a pool. So, my mission was to regrow my financial service business when I got to South Florida. I started that podcast, The Shrimp Tank, and I'm very thankful to FAU who said, let's run with it. Right, they didn't have to take a chance on me. They had no idea who I was. I sold them on a concept. I said, I'm gonna pay for everything. And if there's anyone listening out there that wants to grow in business, one recommendation is don't ask for the check up front. Everyone always asks me, how did I create a relationship with FAU? Simple. I asked, number one, and number two, I did not ask them for a single penny. Everyone knocks on their door knowing that, they have buckets of money, of course.
Right.
It's like, hey, I'd love to do blank with you. It's only going to cost this much money and then we could succeed. I didn't do that. I said, hey, would you like to host a podcast with me? I'm going to set up this cool studio in my office. And all you got to do is come 5 minutes away and I'll have a guest lined up for us, a good entrepreneur. And that entrepreneur now can be brought into your classroom settings, speak to your classes, and educate them on entrepreneurship. And you're going to get the rawness of what it's like from a real entrepreneur. And these students, will have the opportunity to get internships with these companies. These students, once they graduate, have opportunities to get jobs with these companies.
That's so cool.
And also, what about donations, right? FAU needs donors.
Yeah.
So they said, let's do it. What we got to lose? It's at your office, right? You're paying for everything, and this was 2018. Like podcast equipment back then was expensive. Right? Nowadays with Amazon, this podcast equipment, lighting, everything's, gotten a lot less expensive. Everything can be done on an iPhone. So that's my one tip of advice to everyone out there. It's like, if you're a video editor, great example. It's like, I get like 100 messages, a week, literally, on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Hey, I could do a great job editing your videos. And I'm sitting there like, you and everybody else. It's a crowded space, right? Why not just go to a business owner like me? Don't even ask. Go take one of my videos
from YouTube, like you could do it
anywhere, and just send me a video. It takes you probably, if you're a good editor, 5 to 10 minutes to do that. Yeah. And just say, hey, Jason, I love your content. Here's a video I made for you. Feel free to post it, and just tag me if you don't mind if you post it. Right? And if I got that video, 99% of the time, if it's good quality, I'm going to post it. I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to thank you. But why does no one do that? Right? Because we all kind of go into like, we can't give away anything unless someone pays for my value. It's like
the mindset of taking.
Yeah, but it's like, you don't you have more time on your hands likely if you're trying to grow a business. So reverse it. Be different than everyone else. Wow the other person. And that's what I did with the FAU. And that's still to this day what I do with guests that come on the Owwll podcast, the Shrimp Tank, even Owwll the app. Owwll app is the only platform I'm aware of that you could log in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and see different experts and just call them. They're all listed at different prices, $1, $5, $10, $100. But if you found value in that individual, you're just calling them and saying, hey, how's it going? I see you do X, Y, or Z. And, I just wanted to kind of chat a little bit with you. It's a networking platform. And the conversations go in multiple directions. Called people, then I'm meeting for coffee. Then I'm doing a Zoom meeting. Then it's turning into business. Then it's turning into a podcast. I got put into a book one time, right? You don't know where conversations will go. I think social media allows you to create a little picture of yourself, but it's not always the full story.
Right.
It tells you this much, and it's interpreted by the user reading it. So why not just have a genuine one-on-one conversation? When I look back at all the entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, there's a common theme. A lot of them have gotten to where they've gotten through relationships. Sometimes they got 99 no's, and there's a quote up here, and all it took was one yes. And the one yes wrote them a check for $500,000.
Wow.
Took a chance on that person. And you know what happened? That person then grew a business to $150 million from that one yes. And that one person believed in them. So they didn't want to disappoint that individual either, right? They wanted to not only give that person back that $500,000, but they wanted to give them a return, but also they wanted to look them in the eyes and say, you were right. And also, the 99 were wrong.
Yeah, and thank you for believing in me, right?
Yeah. Simon Sinek says it all the time. He says, it just takes one person to believe in you, right? And I will say the same thing when it comes to myself when I look at the Owwll community. We have approximately 50 brand ambassadors currently that believe in me and the platform in our community. And there's ones out there that have been there literally 2-3 years ago. We were in the beta environment, not in the app store, testing the app, so many bugs. But they really just believed in me as a leader. They're like, this app's going somewhere, right? They could see, the human side of me, the passion I had, texting them, giving them my cell phone. And
it's hard not to see it, man.
And really just like saying, I want to align myself with this individual because he's going to make impact to millions of people in the future. And this platform's got it. It's got what it takes because it's bringing a simple concept back into humanity, right? Just calling people.
Yeah, the ability to communicate with each other.
And get to know each other, right? And if you think about what is podcasting, it's very similar, right? You came here today, we didn't know each other, and now we're talking. And then after the podcast ends, we're going to talk some more.
Yeah.
And then who knows? In 5 years, you might quit your job, right? And say, I'm full-time editor. I loved having these one-on-one podcasts with people. But then I'm editing these clips. Then I got really good at editing. Then all of a sudden, you're like, I want to do this full-time.
Yeah.
It's more passionate, but also can't always just go after everything that's passionate if there's no money involved.
I agree.
Right? But if all of a sudden it aligns, or all of a sudden like the editing, gets of such good quality and people start asking you for your services, then that day's going to come and you just don't know. Could have this could have been the spark. The next guest could have been the spark. But I see it time and time, with relationships and on the Owwll app. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in relationships. That's actually how I, got introduced to you, the Alexander group, all these amazing things.
Sure.
But before we get there, what triggered the spark? What led you to create the app?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Tell me about that.
So it was due to COVID.
Okay.
I was driving to work one morning, and it was right during the days. Remember when everyone had to stay home and only certain people would go to work and be on the streets? Like, it was crazy. Think back. Like, if you were in financial services, you go, because remember, I controlled people's money.
Yeah.
I had to be at a computer that I had to make a trade for a customer, and I was allowed to go to work, right? And a lot of people, that worked for Walmart could go to work, right? Because people need food.
Yeah.
Right?
Like emergency
Gas stations,
style work.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, I can't call anybody on my way to work. It was as simple as that. I was like, this makes no sense. I'm in my car. I know everyone's home. Everyone wants to talk. But when you think about it, like you had a text. You had to be like, hey, what are you up to? I'm like, want to jump on a call? If it's awkward. Like we've created all this awkwardness to get in touch with family, friends, and in the work environment, just, past relationships that you've met at networking events, podcasts, past guests. Like I couldn't call any of them. And I was like, but that makes no sense. There's got to be hundreds of people that I know that would love to chat one-on-one while I'm driving to work for 20, 30 minutes on my commute. So that's where like the light bulb went off. I go, the world's not going back to normal. Everyone's at home and COVID's not coming to an end. We knew that. We're like, oh crap, like this is going to last years potentially.
Yeah.
And when that hit, that it wasn't a 2-week thing, I also noticed the growth of entrepreneurship. I go, everyone's becoming an entrepreneur. You could post things at home. You could have a home office. You could do podcasts anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, the two things aligned. The growth of entrepreneurship, the need for one-on-one relationships, and the need to eliminate friction for us to have a conversation.
Yeah. People looking for mentorship, right?
Everything. And we're all commuting. So if you're driving back down to Miami and I'm driving that direction as well, why would we not want to just jump on a call together? Right? But there's no platform that you could do that. Everything's scheduled. All our competitors like schedule a meeting and very high price. What about the everyday person that wants not a low cost, but a reasonable price to just get on a call with one another? So Owwll does that. It eliminates the friction. And it's really simple. Let's say you're driving to Miami, you set a timer and you say, I'm available to take calls. Not only do I know that you're available when I log into the app because I see it saying you're available, but it sends me a notification because I always want to speak with you. And now I'm like, ooh, he's available to chat with. And how cool is this? If I'm available, I just click call and your price might be listed at $5 for 10 minutes and I'm calling you. And most of the time it's not about the money, it's just the access. And
proximity.
Yes. So proximity. I literally did that this morning. I called this individual that is an amazing podcaster and he knows podcast equipment. And I had a technical question to ask him. And, 3 minutes of the conversation, we're talking about that one technical question. The other 17 minutes,
you're just getting to know each other.
Getting to know each other. And we're talking about different strategies, what he's doing. I didn't even know this. And it's good for everyone to know. It's like the world is changing where like horizontal and vertical formats, where like now when you go live, there's certain technology out there that you could go live on different formats. Because Instagram wants vertical, with their new announcement that you could stream live to their platform, and YouTube Shorts, right?
Oh yeah,
YouTube's going after TikTok. So when you look at like these things that we learn from one another, it cannot be done through reading social media profiles. It's not going to be done through a little clip that everyone wants to get into entertainment. It's going to happen through genuine conversations. So what started at $5 for 10 minutes, I chatted with him for $10, and for $10, I learned something amazing today.
Yeah.
Right?
Thousands of dollars in value, most likely.
And likely I'm giving him value too. Like I'm like, oh, well, I'm doing this. And then all of a sudden it's like, even there was an exchange of money, mine to his, it doesn't matter. To me, it's like, it was the access. One day he'll call me back for something. So it's like, Owwll is just kind of the simplest thing in the world. Calling people, seeing where it goes, and people are falling in love with it. We have so many testimonials when people get on the platform. And you got to get used to changing. I think often people see platforms like Owwll, I'm like, I don't know. I got a million other apps. And they just don't want to get out of that comfort zone of calling a stranger, right? Calling them. But if you look 30 years ago, like people called all day.
That was the standard.
That was a standard. Now we're saying, here's an expert who says, call me, I'm $5. And now you're not comfortable? That was crazy. 30 years ago, people would have been like, holy crap.
You pay anything for that access.
I call 100 people and one person picks up back in the day.
Yeah.
And your time is valuable. So now if you get on a call instantly and 100% guarantee you're getting a pickup, it's pretty cool, right? But ready, here's the problem. People have an expectation that if I call someone, they should buy my services because I'm selling them. It's like that mindset, going back to what I said about FAU. The reason why I was successful
Because you were not extracting from them at first.
Correct.
You led with value.
You led with value. So the people on Owwll that love it and do a call or two every single day, they're just there to call the person, give them a few dollars, and just learn and get to know them. They're not selling them anything.
Of course.
And I think when people fail at Owwll, they have the wrong expectation. They're trying to sell too much, and then they go right back to posting on social media. They get poor results. They don't get the right type of customers, and they blame it on the tool. It's never the tool, right? Any platform, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Owwll included, if done correctly, you could figure it out and you could gain value. And my belief is Owwll is superior to every platform I just mentioned.
Yeah, social connection.
When done right.
Scale.
Because if you could scale a one-to-one relationship, it's going to turn to one-to-one to many. And a great example is the event with Alexander coming up on March 15th.
Yeah, Elevate.
I start with a one-on-one conversation with her on Owwll.
Oh, wow, that's how that happened?
And then all that really happens, she's telling me about the event. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, we should do the Owwll Interactive podcast at your event, right? And elevate it, right? Everyone's used to events all the time. Oh, look at this speaker, look at that speaker. And then, it's not for everyone sitting in the back of the room and just listening to another speech, right? Because we're all in different industries. So I told her, I'm like, let's elevate this thing. Let's bring the Owwll Interactive podcast booth to your event. Let's co-brand it together. And what we're going to do is we're going to have 16 different hosts at this event.
Wow.
So during the event, 4 hours of the event is lunchtime, networking in the beginning, networking at the end. And that booth will be open during those times. So how cool is this? We have a famous artist, Lawrence Gartell, as an example. He's going to host it for 30 minutes. You will get that opportunity to sit in that booth with a famous artist that has his work all around the world, including locally here at the Hard Rock Hotel, and get interviewed by him. And then how cool is this? You're an editor. You'll edit one of those clips,
right?
And you'll hand deliver a clip to that person. They're never going to forget that event, because all these other events they go to, same. It's really cool in the moment, and then they forget about it.
Right.
Not Elevate. Elevate, you're going to have a clip with Lawrence Gartell, and that was the time you met a famous artist, and you have it forever. So my whole idea on my podcast show with Elevate, if I'm going to be a participant at an event, I'm always going to try to make it a unique experience, because people will never forget those experiences. If you were to go back in your life, do you remember that one concert that you went to? What was it?
You wouldn't know who they are. I'm originally from Cuba, so these Cuban people that had never been able to come here.
Sure.
And the very first time they made it, and the only time they could make it because they got into some sort of trouble, my wife invited me to it. So I'll never forget about that experience.
And that's the thing, is like, people will never forget experiences, right? And when you look at Elevate 2024, right, even the name has, it's like the next level, Elevate, higher levels. The speakers are amazing. I'll be one of the speakers talking about how you could gain relationships through the Owwll app, and then it's going to followed by immediately to the Owwll Interactive podcast booth with Lawrence Gartell, because we're putting it right there front and center, that not only could you gain relationships through the platform and at the event, but then the booth itself. And then we want people after the event to communicate on Owwll app one-on-one, because sometimes you don't get that one-on-one interaction with people. There's people around you, and you don't want to talk about something, that is personal. Think about it, we all have personal issues.
Yeah, everybody does.
We're all going through shit in our lives, right? And sometimes you want a one-on-one private call with someone, to chat, and you can't do it at an event. So Owwll is also going to be a great tool after events, where you say, hey, everyone, follow each other on the Owwll app, right? And you can follow each other on Instagram and LinkedIn. We see everyone connecting there.
They're not really connecting.
But then it's like, what happens? Right? Like, I went to an event last night in Miami, right? You always got all this energy, and you get a bunch of cards. And then 3 weeks go by, the card goes from your desk to the drawer.
Right.
The LinkedIn message gets buried.
Never happens.
Nothing happens.
Yeah.
But with Owwll, the next day, wake up, call them. There's a button, request them to make themselves available. They get it, they do. They remembered you from yesterday. Again, use it as a tool. Talk to them. Make something happen. So that's my thing with Owwll and Elevate, is we want to really show this world that we could do more unique events. So I'm excited for this because this is going to be the first event that we did a completely co-brand. The whole back, banner, it's going to be Elevate and Owwll.
Very cool.
It's going to be really exciting to have 16 different hosts at an event, and anyone who's going to enter that booth is not only going to get their 4 to 6 minute clip, but they'll also get the opportunity to get an edited clip, right? So folks like yourself can go in there. But ready for this? How crazy is this? Let's say you wanted to really go full time, right? In editing, right? We know you got a full-time job out there, but let's say like that's your passion. Right. I don't know if it is. We just met today. But you now have 4 hours of footage from all the people at Elevate. Now you could spend the next 30 days, let's say there's 4 hours of time, you split that up into 6 minutes per person. You could make hundreds of videos.
Right.
What if you gave it out to every single person for free? And say, just, if you don't mind, just tag me. You could potentially, with one event, create an entire business. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And guess what? Not only after you edit them, you say, hey, call me on Owwll whenever you want. If you ever needed any content edited in the future. So see what we're doing here? We're just giving. And if you're giving, eventually you could turn things into a business. Because then eventually people are going to see the givers and then knock back on your door. And they're going to say, hey, I really like your work. I mean, the work has to be there.
Of course.
There needs to be work ethic. There needs to be clear communication. I've seen a lot of talented individuals, and they never make it because they're bad communicators, and people don't want to work with bad communicators. It ends up being, a pet peeve of most business owners when you say, hey, I love that person. They're so talented. But
people need to trust you.
I called them. They didn't pick up.
Yeah.
I texted them. They didn't get back to me 3 days later. I
but
emailed them, and somehow the email's always lost, right? So it's like you can't just always have the talent and then not the other side. You need to be the full package. And I rather work with someone actually a little less talented that's actually better on the other side.
On the execution.
Because then I know their passion's there and they could always improve on the other side. So that's my 2 cents when it comes to events like Elevate.
Why? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. That was...
Where did, the name, where did it come from?
Yeah, a great question. So I was with 6-7 developers. We were building Owwll, on paper. And they said, we got to get this going. You got 24, 48 hours because we got to start building screens. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, this is just an idea. I just had the idea, I just want to call people, right? That's literally the idea. And it was so cool to have these developers really kind of sit me down and say, every day we got to do this. And it was during COVID. I was bored. I was in the office by myself and was talking to them on Zoom. And pretty much, I started with a sheet, just on, you're Googling stuff. There's no chat GPT. That would have been amazing.
Right.
And I was like, what could I do? Like hourglass, the time will go down. Time chat, right? Those were coming into my mind. But being a business owner, I've learned shorter names do better. And, when you're looking at social media today, things that fit in the little circle do better. So the longer names don't work out as well. And it had to be a short one because it's going to be in the App Store. And when you look at apps on your phone, you look at all the successful ones, they're all under 8 characters.
Yeah,
you can't fit much, right? Starbucks, Instagram, Uber, TikTok, everything's short.
YT.
The ones that are too long, tend to not work well. And often when you look at a lot of the big ones, the name sometimes doesn't always have to reflect the brand perfectly. Right. It doesn't have to be time chat is an example. Time and chatting. Right. It could be something different that has more meaning. So owls are, known as the animals of wisdom and intelligence. So we call our experts owls on the platform. And a lot of people love the logo, right? People love owls. You see tattoos with owls everywhere. And Drake has the owl. And I just felt like it already kind of had this confidence in it already. And people could see it and really feel the owl from day one. And we ran with it. I went into GoDaddy and I was like, OWL, of course that's not available, right? But it gives you other ones that are. And what was available was 2 W's, 2 L's, and I just said, that's it.
Yeah.
I go, it sounds
It
the
spoke
same.
to you.
Owwll, and it looks cool. And I just literally didn't think twice. I'm like, that's it.
Done.
Ran with it, and we moved on.
Very
And
cool
sometimes
story.
that's important. You have to just execute. Too often people will spend months and asking too many people, and it goes nowhere.
Yeah, paralysis by analysis.
You can always change stuff, right? You can. Big brands. FAU's doing it right now, right? Their basketball team did great. They went to March Madness last year, right? Well, now they're rebranding the entire logo. They don't want FAU. They want it Florida Atlantic, right? So all the branding is changing because too many people get it confused with like FIU, and other universities. So they want it to be Florida Atlantic. So you could always rebrand. You see this all the time where, ones with big names go shorter. I think that's more common today.
Yeah.
Than going longer, of course, like what FAU is doing. But I understand why they're doing it and the thought process. But pretty much you got to execute.
But things could be fluid. So maybe demystify something for me. Tell me about a misconception that's common as a business owner that maybe you would like to debunk as completely fake. Maybe that could be it. That the fact that things are not set in stone, right?
I mean, my whole thing, and that's a great question, is that there's no right way.
Okay.
I think too often people follow entrepreneurs and they start copying them. They're like, that's the right way to do it because Gary Vaynerchuk said it, right? And that's the right way because Grant Cardone said it. And what I've noticed is there's no one right way, right? You could be Louis Vuitton, right? And you could go after a certain group of people and it works perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Or, right, you could be TJ Maxx and go after the crowd that loves bargains, loves to go through the aisles and see something for $9.99 and be like, boom, this is it. Amazing shirt. It's a deal. It was $40 and now it's $9.99. Different market segments, right? And then the revenues, and I don't know their real revenues. I'm just using an example.
Might be pretty much the same.
It could be each one is at the same revenue numbers.
Yeah.
And they got there in different ways. So I look at that with social media, with podcasting. There's no one right way, and people too often, get a lot of noise put in their ear, and it's just like there's no one right way. Like everyone says, like, hey, but why are you starting Owwll? Like LinkedIn could do it, TikTok could do it, Clubhouse could do it.
They're not doing it.
And then like, oh, your app is similar to these other 3, and I go, you're right, they are similar to those other 3, right? But if you take a moment, you'll see that we're actually quite different. Most of our competitors are going after, the high-end entrepreneurs to speak to one-on-one. The everyday person who's starting a business cannot spend $1,000 for 1 hour to talk to that individual.
Of course, yeah.
So they'll use that platform once a year if they can. Financially, likely they can if they're a startup. But I look at our app as for the everyday person. The everyday person can use our platform and gain value from it. So I just see this misconception of people allowing people to get into their head, the noise.
Yeah.
And often people then quit on their dreams because of their noise. And that noise could come from family. You're right. Often family members have been through a lot and they got battle scars.
Yeah.
Right? Your own mother and father have battle scars likely. And they'll tell you, don't do it. Stick to that 9 to 5. You're going to get a great 401k, health care. And if you go down that road and be an entrepreneur, that's a scary road. I wouldn't do it. Stick to where you're at. Don't be stupid. And then you're sitting here like, wait a second. Like, why are they saying that? Because maybe they had a rough road and they had some battle scars, but times are different. And I just think too many people listen to people in the wrong shoes. Like they don't know how good of an editor you are. They don't know like the niche that you're going down and how people are knocking on your door and what people are saying, right? So I always say it's like, you got to be very careful with recommendations and opinions. It's because it's so easy to take opinions. Everyone loves giving them.
Yeah.
You know how many times I got opinions? I don't ask. I literally am like, hey, how's it going?
They just come free,
I
right?
think you should meet this person. They're a great entrepreneur. I jump on a Zoom with them, and within 10 minutes, they're telling me what to do with Owwll.
Wow.
And how, they should do this, this, and that. And I'm sitting there like, you haven't downloaded Owwll yet. And I didn't ask for your opinion, right? Like, it's amazing that just because you've had some success, do you have success in building a mobile app? Do you have success in building a community and a platform? Because I got news for most people out there that are doing that. 99.9% of people making recommendations to you have not. And the reason why is 99% of apps fail. So it's really easy for other people to poke holes at you, in you, wherever it might be. But the truth is, I've witnessed entrepreneur after entrepreneur who have been successful go down the lane I'm in and build a mobile app. They'll never talk about it. They burn through some money and put it on the side. And now they're sitting there telling you, hey, this is how I would do it. Right? So it's amazing to see, like, you don't see a lot of big people building beverage companies for that reason. You see on Shark Tank, think about it.
Yeah.
When a beverage company comes in,
They just hate it
they're
immediately.
like, I'm not getting burned again. Had a battle scar. Same thing with platforms directed to consumers.
Yeah.
Right? But yet, people will try to get you away from your dream and your passion.
You should never allow that
And
to
you
happen.
have to be careful. It's okay to listen, but you can't let it get to your head too much. And it's also important to listen to the right people.
Yeah.
Right? People that are in your shoes. And a great example would be me if you're trying to do an in-person podcast. I know a lot of things that other podcasters don't know that are doing them online, right? More Zoom focused.
Yeah.
Right? So all the time, it's a whole different scene.
Completely.
And I'm sitting here like, you're getting advice from someone that doesn't run an in-person show every single week. I do. So it depends, the format of a show and going back to the person's experience. I build it all for the experience of my guest, right? That's my main goal of our show. Where most people online, their main goal is their audience, right? And say, hey, my audience wants this, my audience wants that, right? And there's a gazillion podcasts, right? So it's like, if you're always focusing on chasing the metrics, good luck. There's few that, there's some that have pulled it off, but for me, I'll be honest, and hopefully one day I get both. But right now I look at it as like, based on our download rate and our viewership online, it's like, I'd rather focus on that person coming in that studio.
Of course.
Making it their best day of their week. And that happened yesterday. We had a guest come in, and she's been on tons of shows. She was on Good Morning America. And she walked away from that show just saying that was one of the coolest experiences that she's had. It's right up in our Instagram story and on our feed. And she just said it naturally. She's like, that was just cool.
Because it was fun, right?
It was fun.
It was a good time.
We started our show. We turned it on, and we were talking just like we're doing now. And we were having a good time and really letting her, share her journey and be herself. Not stage questions, just
real connection.
Random things. We were talking about, we were calling people on the Owwll app live. We can't fake that. We were just calling random people. I looked down who was available and we called. But again, a unique experience.
Yeah.
We're calling people live on an app during a podcast show.
That's incredible.
Right? And they're getting patched in. And then they will also remember, like, that was so cool. I was patched into a show with this individual that was just on Good Morning America last week, right? So it's like, it's a cool experience, right? And that's what I always think in life that we need. We need to stop chasing these metrics and trying to go viral. And then you go viral, so you could own a Ferrari, and you're gonna get all this money from the viral post. But then it's like, is that really true? Like, most people I know, like, they get that viral video and then they realize it leads to nothing.
Right.
That's the truth.
Leads to chasing more of those moments.
Chasing more. And then all of a sudden, you always see this moment, this pivot. They're like, I realized I was going down the wrong path. Mm-hmm. Right. And then they go back to their roots of forming relationships with the right people and going back to like good communication and realizing that they were doing it wrong. Right. And I think today we're unfortunately seeing too much of that. And it's really ruining society.
I agree.
Right? Like,
Great that you brought me there, because I wanted to ask you about some of the struggles.
Yeah.
Because that's the nitty and gritty, right? Not everything that people see is success. So why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, because going back to how fake social media is, everyone just shows the good stuff.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? Like, look, I'm on a private jet. I'm in first class, right? And look, I'm in the Venetian in Las Vegas, and look at my suite here, and look at my beautiful cocktails and all this amazing food, and look at all my friends behind me, right? And the truth is like that's like one day out of a 30-day month, right?
Yeah.
You know, the other 29 days, like what is really going on in that individual's life, right? If they really do, you know, have that business backing it up. So I'll tell you, you know, my struggles and how bumpy of a road it has been to build a platform like Owwll and have 2 podcast shows and have a financial service business. I mean, I went to dinner last night in Miami, and the guy looked straight at me. He goes, Jason, I am rooting for you, man. I've never seen somebody so consistent, working day in, day out, and just not giving up on the mission. He's like, I've seen entrepreneurs. He's part of EO. And he's like, dude, I've just never seen someone's work ethic like yours.
Wow.
He's like, you just don't stop. And you are just day in, day out, like messaging people, posting. He's like, but I see even things behind the scenes that you're up to. And he's like, that's amazing. And he knows it comes with struggles. He had the company called Florida Salt Scrubs, and he exited, and now he coaches other entrepreneurs about mindset and really the struggles. Yeah. And he's great at it. And you know, when you're doing things like what I'm doing, there's no off button.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be like, okay, it's Monday through Friday. Now I'm going to ignore the emails that are coming in from the community that they can't log in because they're having a password reset issue, right? I got news for everyone. You know, you have to step in as the founder to respond to an email, because when you're a bootstrap brand, you don't have the capital to hire everyone. I was like, well, why are you doing that? You're the founder. It's like, got newsflash, you got to do everything. You got to work 24 hours a day.
All the hats.
Fix stuff when things break, and wear a lot of hats. So, you know, that's one of the struggles, is wearing that many hats. I have a 9 and 7-year-old. I'm married. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great father. And you have to sacrifice. Yeah. So here's my sacrifice. I don't watch any television. Practically none. I pay a lot of money every month for television, though. Tell my wife we should cut the cord every month. But like, I just don't have time.
Right.
People ask me about politics. I go, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's happening outside of my door.
I don't have time for it. I wake up every morning and I put fitness, you know, up there, because I had cancer in 2022. Technically, I guess it overlapped to 2023, right after the surgery, and I was recovering. And I have to put health first.
Yeah.
Every day, I wake up, I run around my pool, and then jump in. It's about 30 minutes in total. And I get my fitness in Monday through Friday. I play pickleball 3 days a week for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Pickleball is the best.
One is waking up on a Sunday. Most people are like, I don't want to do a Sunday. I'm up at 7:30 on a Sunday. My pickleball game's 8 to 10 o'clock in the morning. Then 2 nights a week. So everyone's like, how do you do that 3 days? Don't you have family? It's like, I do it because I'm doing it when people are sleeping, literally.
Wow.
And I'm doing it at nighttime when my kids are going to bed. So I'm able to balance family, being a good husband, and being a good father because of the time structure. But I'm not a couch potato watching television and Netflix. Everyone will be quick to judge you when you're in my shoes, because they're going to say, hey, aren't you married? Don't you have kids? Like, you know, aren't you being a bad father if you're doing all this, if you're playing pickleball 3 days a week? I'm like, no. I go, you don't know my entire schedule, and you're not good at time management, because I bet you know every play, you know, that happened on Sunday football.
Every show in the Netflix.
So you're sitting there watching TV all day, and you know every show on there. It's like that's ridiculous. It's you're just making a judgment because you're just looking at what society says is right. You know, society says it's okay to do that for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with watching TV 24 hours and scrolling on social media. Like, let me see your phone. Let me see your Instagram. How many hours? Bet it says an hour or two. Let me see TikTok. So people are so quick to judge you because it makes them feel better about those decisions. But a lot of that shit's bullshit. You don't need all the social media. So I'll check social media like for business. It's not for personal use. My social media, right when you walked in, I was doing a post. I'm like, I'm knocking out this post. Let me just get it and hit submit. So what I see in life is people doing social media for entertainment. I'm doing social media for my business, and my business translates to my life. Yeah. Because I want to impact people in the Owwll community, but I need to attract people on social media to get them to the community.
Of course.
I need to do social media for the income to support my family. Yeah. So day in, day out, I am scheduled out. I have alarm clocks when my meetings are. And I put important stuff in the beginning of the day, like this podcast, I want it to be alert. Yeah. So I don't do it at 4 o'clock when I'm tired. I do it in the morning when I'm awake. So I'm a better speaker in the morning and my mind's right. Once your day gets going, things are thrown at you. Yeah. You get text messages, you get emails, and you get put in a bad mood potentially. So put your important shit in the morning to stay focused and in the right mind. Man. That's cool. If I have an investor meeting, boom, it's in the morning. I want to be alert. I don't want 20 messages to throw my game off. Yeah. And anything to throw your game off. Family members. I'm married. It ain't easy to be married these days, right? Look at the statistics with everything going on in this world. I mean, you could have a fight with your spouse, but you have to learn to get over those fights and not let it stay in your head all day. Of course. So I just look at what do I struggle with? It's just the common thing every human does. Balancing it all. And the big piece that people don't speak about is financials, right? I'm bootstrapping a mobile platform, very, very expensive. Of course. And I had to dig into those resources that I worked so hard for 15, 20 years of my life, right? I'm 40 years old today. I worked right out of college at 21, and I built up my net worth and everything around me. College savings plans for my kids, retirement accounts, a property. But I am now digging into everything that I built to go after a bigger mission. Yeah. And people think I'm absolutely crazy for that.
No, I don't think you are.
And I just say, you live life once, and if I'm wrong, it's the same thing that I said when I moved to Florida.
You go back and do it again. Back.
And guess what? I have the confidence now, so I'm not starting from scratch. Yeah. So no matter what occurs, I always knew hey, it's me. I'm a talented individual. I'm okay with taking my whole net worth right now and plumbing it into zero. Wow. And that's a hard thing to say to your spouse. You come home and say, believe in me.
Jason, how do we find you, brother?
So the best place, of course, is Owwll. Yeah. Every single day, I am on that platform. I make myself available to our community. I charge $99 for 10 minutes to speak with me. But ready for this? If you put in a deposit of $99 into your Owwll account and you call me, I will refund you that $99. Wow. I believe in our mission and our platform and our community that much that I'm willing to give you that $99 back. And look, someone is calling me as we speak on Owwll. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to mute that one. But that's pretty interesting that I was getting an Owwll call as we were speaking. And the point of this is that I just want people to be able to reach me and take my time serious. So by requiring someone to put a deposit in, that means they're taking our platform serious, they're taking my time serious. And when someone does that, I will go out of my way to do everything I can for that individual because they showed that they cared. They showed that it wasn't about just soliciting me, that they cared enough about the platform to really put in their credit card and a deposit. And it's so funny. Everyone out there message me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and they all want to get in touch, but they're not willing to just put in that little extra effort, to just call me through the platform. Yeah. So if you're out there and you want to speak to me, just go right to Owwll, download it. It's spelled Owwll. We're in the App Store and Google Play Store.
We'll put it right here, by the way.
Right here. And call me. I'm on there every single day, 7 days a week.
What are some of your personal social medias or any other websites you want to spotlight, and we'll just populate them all over the screen?
I'm on all social medias. Very simple. The Jason R. Hill.
Okay, phenomenal, brother. To finish the podcast, one of my favorite sections here always is what is the best piece of advice that you could give the audience to help them transform their health, wealth, or relationships?
Yeah, I'm going to relate this one to what we were speaking about earlier. A lot of people have asked me this exact question, and I've given different answers. But today specifically, I'm going to talk about limited beliefs. When we were talking about your situation, right, earlier about editing and having a corporate job, I just feel like, two people get, kind of in their own mind, and they build up this fear, and they don't take that jump. And they put themselves sometimes in other people's shoes, how they might take it. And the most important thing sometimes is to sometimes just ask. Ask for help. Ask to have that person on your podcast. Ask your community for help. We're all human. We're all struggling. So I think too often people just have limited beliefs that it's harder than it is. And it's not that hard. That's the lie that social media sells us. And often, it's just about starting, one step at a time. And we're all going to have problems. And when that problem arises, just know that you will get through it. You're human. I had cancer, right? And I publicly posted about it. And I shared my experience. So that way others, if they were going through something similar, they could call me on Owwll and say, hey, I'm going through the same exact situation that you went through. And I'd love if I could pick your brain about what it was really like, not getting opinions from others and doctors that just didn't have that same situation.
That's really powerful.
It is. And the limited belief that, like you might, not like something, so you don't ask, but the other person doesn't take it that way. And I think too often we're all in our own minds about, what others think and what others would do if you did something. And I'm just a believer is you got to put it out in the world, be yourself, because if you're yourself and you're genuine, then, most of the time it's going to come back and people will see that side of you.
Yeah.
And, if you do something wrong, they're going to understand that you're human. And they're like, okay, that person didn't mean to post something a certain way. And, we had to take that post down on social media. We had to re-edit it. It happens to us all the time. But it's easy if you communicate with people and say, hey, looks like we made a mistake on our team. We're going to take that post down and re-put it up. Thanks for having, patience with us. Tell people when you're running late. Call them and say, hey, by the way, I bumped into some traffic. Or even like me right now. Sorry, my mom is calling me right now and I forgot to put my phone on silent. And I'm sorry,
It's all right,
I appreciate, the interview and I just forgot to put my phone on silent for the last X amount of time during the interview. And then people are normal, right? You have your mom calls you and then the point of the story is like, life moves on. Don't take everything so serious.
That's impactful. I appreciate it, brother. This interview was so fire.
Absolutely.
I think an immense amount of value here. And I guess don't think about it. Just get it done.
Yeah.
Find out way to do it. And if you mess up or maybe it's not the proper way, you could always reassess and do something else, right?
Absolutely.
And that's
My
it. That's all I
pleasure.
got today.
Awesome, man.
Thank you. All right. Cut.
Hoot, hoot.